David. Hello,
It was
Bob.
better.
Yeah,
it was better.
You know what I've come to realize? When you wear rubber surgical gloves, your clap is unbelievably loud. I bet that's a little fast fact no one knew because you don't wear it, and anyone who does wear gloves isn't clapping. But
from New York, you are listening to Extra Time, driven by Continental from actually Vacaville, California. I'm Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, eye-rolling David Goss, Matt Doyle, Kalen Carr.
Love Vacaville. I've spent a lot of time there.
Oh, it's a beautiful place. Yeah,
the
outlets are open, guys. Outlets are open, so.
Kalen, are you
tournaments growing up? What's that?
Did you join an Inter Miami Atlanta-based fan group, or have you started the supporters group based out of Atlanta?
Southeast, man. It's my new. I'm covering the whole region now. So
just pro Southeast in general.
That's all. I need a Nashville gear. I need it all. Give me
Has Charlotte sent you any swag yet?
No, but I drove past Charlotte for the first time on my drive down here. Yeah. So
what a memorable day.
It was a lovely. It was a lovely day. Just wearing gloves and a face mask driving down to Atlanta.
That's a good point. Hey, wear your masks, people.
Wear your mask.
Wear your masks. Please wear your masks. If you're inside and you're out, especially around other people, please wear your masks. I know we started.
Wear a mask.
A chin strap? What's that?
People wear their masks under their chin. I'll put it up when the disease comes, which is not how that works.
No.
Wear a mask. I've been out a lot over the last few days. People should wear masks.
Yeah, I'm like struggling between, because it's very normal here. People are dining inside of restaurants, doing things that they would normally do, and I'm not, and I'm terrified of it. And so I'm like balancing the do I get confrontational, or do I just walk away and ignore people? And I'm definitely on the walk away, ignore people train right now.
I mean, just for the sake of information, like there's a lot of scientific information out there now, a lot of studies. We have a very good idea of how this thing spreads. Churches, nightclubs, bars, restaurants, places where people are gathered together and are talking, therefore expelling their breath and expelling, a certain amount of viral load, and then recirculating. Those are the hot spots. So please take care of yourselves and think of others. Take care of others. Put on your mask.
By the way, that information is not new. That's been around. It's like, at this point, if you're not doing it, you're just willful ignorance. And I don't even know. But yeah.
Hey, look, we're just trying to educate you. We got a lot coming today. Robin Fraser of the Colorado Rapids, the head coach, is going to join us. This was an awesome conversation. You will enjoy that. We have some news that's new for the quarantine. Franco Jara, he is now with FC Dallas. He'll be available for the tournament. The guy that David said made them a championship contender, which officially ruled them out of my dark horses. I followed Charlie's advice, and I regretted every minute of it. And also, LAFC signed Andy Najar, which we all knew was coming, but finally has happened. So
this is just an on-contract training situation for the next year to 2 years.
Yeah, hey, look, he's just feeling it out. He's in LA, he just happens to be taking pictures with the team. No biggie. We're welcoming him into the group.
Like I would argue, I'm not a part of ETR. I'm just training with you guys for the last week.
You look pretty good. We might have to make you permanent. But look, speaking of education,
we need to do one of those hat flips that LAFC does to announce you.
They've moved away from that. They're still
Let's
using
get that
the hat.
Twitter hashtag going. Announce David Goss. Let's go.
I'm in for it. I like it. I said, though, we're going to educate you as well. Before we get to the soccer, let's do that. I know I was not taught about Juneteenth in schools. I was not taught about it in grade school, middle school, high school, college. It wasn't a part of the sort of media that was being pushed out to me every year. It's now at the forefront. It should have been at the forefront before. I'll just give you the quick spiel to educate yourself in case you're thinking, I don't know what Juneteenth is. June 19th, 1865. Enslaved African Americans in Galveston, Texas were told that they were free. Now, that came 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, but it was now into effect. And every year, it's an annual holiday, is Juneteenth, celebrating, commemorating the end of slavery in the United States. It's been celebrated by African Americans since the late 1800s. We should be celebrating it. I will be celebrating it tomorrow. I'll be celebrating it by reading, educating myself, learning more about the history that I was not taught. So I suggest you do the same, whether it's just Google, whether it's watching a documentary. We've got 13th on our queue. We're going to get to that finally this weekend. Find a way to add a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of understanding to your toolbox. If you don't have it, and if you do, well done. Good stuff. Anything to add before we get to the soccer?
Yeah, I'm going to, 13th is a very good documentary to watch, but Henry Louis Gates, prominent Black American scholar, last year did for PBS a 4-part documentary on Reconstruction. For those of you who don't know, Reconstruction is the period in the South that followed the Civil War, essentially 1865 to 1876. And the idea was to not just end slavery, but to end structural racism and frankly, white supremacist terror that had been inflicted upon Black freedmen, like instantly as soon as they became freedmen. And Reconstruction was successful for a time. And then it wasn't, because we stopped. And the idea behind watching that is, first of all, to learn this part of history, American history, that is, frankly, I think, undertaught, but also to understand that we're in a situation now in the world where some frankly wonderful things are happening, and there seems to be a movement, but the movement can't just be for now. It has to be to change things long term, and it's going to be generational. We're still going to be having this conversation in 2030 and 2040 and so on. So please watch that documentary. It's on PBS. It's absolutely free, and it's so worth your time. And go out there and make it part of your life and get stuck in.
What's the name of it again, Doyle?
It's called Reconstruction. It's Henry Louis Gates. It's on PBS. They're allowing you to stream it for free. It's called Reconstruction America After the Civil War.
Okay.
And if you want one more, History Channel just did a documentary on Ulysses S. Grant, which is also very much worth watching, because frankly, too often in the U.S., the history of the Civil War was, I think, taught from the perspective of the South, the perspective of the Confederacy. The Daughters of the Confederacy made it a point to try to rewrite history in the early 1900s. They were very successful at that, and it's nice to see some scholars trying to reverse the damage that has been done because of it.
To Doyle's point, I would say I love history. I think it's obvious that a lot of people on this show do, because we talk about it all the time. But with this specific topic, the way that you learn about it in the past, it's almost easier to see than understanding what's going on around you. And all of it is echoed in today. So I think there's value in understanding this, because what Doyle's saying, rewriting the history, to this day, there are people in the United States who will tell you that the Civil War was about states' rights, which is a lie. But it's still said. It's hard to recognize things sometimes when they're around you. When you read the history and understand what's been done and the way it's done, you can see it around you currently. And you can talk about from slavery to the Jim Crow to the prison industrial complex and the things that we do to try and keep communities, mainly the Black community, down in this country. And I think sometimes it's hard to look in the world around you and say, oh, yeah, that's what's happening. So I think when you read and learn and watch and listen, whatever, to the history, it starts to relabel it for you and say, no, this is a continuation of these efforts, of these issues. And also Juneteenth should be a celebration, so have fun as well.
Yeah. I also want to say well done to USL Championship. They announced in this past week that June 19th is now a holiday for USL. So that's well done on their part. And I believe LAFC sent out a petition to make it a national holiday, which I think is a great idea as well and absolutely should be done. Speaking of history that maybe we'll look back on.
We were like, all right, we're good at this.
Yeah. History that we will look back on, but that is present. Congratulations to the Dreamers. Supreme Court with the ruling on DACA. They have won that case. That's awesome. And then the LGBTQ community had a massive victory this week as well as it pertains to discrimination. So congratulations on both those things. That's the present. 2040, Doyle, it blows my mind to even think about that as a thing. And we'll try to not think about that for the rest of the show, I guess. Let's talk about the present and Major League Soccer. Franco Jara FC Dallas's new striker. He's here. He's smiling. He has thumbs up in the announcement picture. And Dave, you said that it makes them a championship contender. And I also want to make a quick correction on us. The text line hit us up. Matt Hedges, not the captain of FC Dallas. Lucci gave Rito Ziegler the captaincy when he took over. So we were a little bit off there, but it was a center back. Are they a championship contender now, Dave? How does this change them? Franco Jara from Pachuca.
Which championship are you asking me about?
I don't know. Any.
I would say the answer, my initial response, is part of why I can't give you 100%, because as we'll hear from Robin Fraser, literally no one knows what's going on. But my thought at the time in that response was, I think they have one of the better established backlines in Major League Soccer. And then they have a ton of youth that has quality in the attacking half and a little bit of inconsistency, but get match-winning ability in guys like Michael Barrios. Franco Jara is a guaranteed product in that attacking front, which gives them consistent production. I don't know that Doyle's complaining. I couldn't really understand what that was. But
he's pouring one out for FC Dallas because you just called it guaranteed. And
that's a strong word. I guess we'll call that David's first guarantee of the year.
Sure. I'll take that. What year? Is it 2027 right now? But yeah, so I think he does a little bit more than Cobra does, but he's not a guy who's really going to stretch the line. He's a guy who is going to finish on pullbacks, find space in the box, at times be able to link up and connect off of, I think it'd be Jesus Ferreira sitting under him, but whatever it is. But he's, 30 plus experienced goal scorer who's played at a high level. And I don't think they had that piece in the attack. And so this was, I thought, a great bonus for FC Dallas, and a team that I think from last year to this year was already going to take a step up just because of players' experience and as a group under Lucci going from year 1 to year 2. And now they bring in a piece that they just didn't have.
So I mean, he scored a goal every other game for his Pachuca career. He's had 2 very, very strong seasons in a row. He's 31. He'll be 32 next month. So he's essentially 32 years old, arriving in the middle of the MLSisBack tournament. It's a good signing, and we saw the difference that Cobra made down the stretch last year, right? When he got hot, when Dallas had a center forward who could put the ball away, this wasn't a team that was scuffling along anymore. Suddenly, this was a team that was going toe-to-toe with the eventual MLS champs in Seattle. The issue, I think, at this point then becomes less the front line and more, okay, we had Reggie Cannon on this show a month ago, 2 months ago maybe, and he said he signed the contract he did with the idea that he would be sold this summer in mind. That was the discussion that they had. I think it's probably similar for Paxton Pomykal. So this is actually a really interesting moment for FC Dallas to see how they navigate the tension between these two desires that they have, which is to compete for trophies and at the same time to be one of the world's great selling clubs. And it happens during the same week, which one of their products, Chris Richards, just made the bench for the Bayern Munich first team for the first time. So, I mean, I agree. Hart is the exact type of short-term fix that Dallas, they had him 2 years ago. Maybe we're talking about this team being a consistent 60-point team. It makes a lot of sense. It might put them over the top, but there might be other moving pieces for Dallas that kind of shake things up.
Doyle, I don't disagree with you at all. And I think, I don't know maybe structurally if this is right, but when you talk about Paxton and you talk about Reggie Cannon, they have options at right back. They have other academy players, of course, Andrew Wiebe, Best 11, Brian Reynolds. And they made another homegrown signing there. And they brought in, I think, Bresson as an idea of this is a guy who's flexible on the back line because we will sell. And then they brought in Thiago Santos to fill in central midfield. And you've still got Cervano, Kalen Carr, Best 11, Cerrillo, and Tanner Tessman. So I think they have pieces in those spots. Paxton Pomykal is a special player. So is Reggie Cannon. You're not replacing them like for like. But I think you have enough depth and talent to continue at least in those two spots. That may not always be the case going forward. There will be question marks with FC Dallas of when do we sell, when do we try and win now? But I think in this scenario, they're probably fairly well set up to continue forward if that's the case this summer.
So you heard it, FC Dallas fans. David Goss just guaranteed your team a trophy this year. That was really brave of you, David.
I actually wouldn't even say the tournament. MLS Cup, done. Everyone else can just go home.
Anders, clip that.
Yeah, whenever that happens. Now, Commissioner Don Garber did say recently that he thinks it's going to happen before the end of the year. So there's your North Star, so to speak, Dallas. You're going for Cup. This MLSisBack thing, that's just a warm-up for the ultimate prize. Kalen, what do you think about Andy Najar to LAFC? We knew it was coming. Everybody knew, but now it's finally here. They have a right back. Blackman moves inside. Is that backline looks really good, but center back depth looks perhaps a little bit iffy.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think the rich get richer. It'd probably be my first reaction, where it's just like, and Andy Najar coming into any team in MLS would make an immediate impact or upgrade. But I think going into a team like LAFC that already is, the best team in MLS, and I think the one place where I would say I've felt that LAFC have looked to try and tinker or improve has been with their outside backs, and the way that they want to play, whether especially on the left side, they've used Jordan Harvey and then Moel Munir, and then they signed, who's the young left back they brought into?
Diego Palacios.
The
Ecuadorian. Yep.
I just feel like on the, they have pretty good depth on both sides, but they've been kind of looking to really turbocharge their flank play. And I think Andy Najar, I played against him when he was, a young homegrown player for DC United. And you could tell how special he was with some of the things. If you go back and watch some of those old highlights of the goals he scored, and just, he was always way calm and like way ahead of his years, way ahead of his time for a young player in MLS. So I think to come back, he's played, I believe, 7 years now over abroad. And so he's got real depth of experience. He's a top pro. I think he's going to fit right into that locker room. I think the fan base is going to love him. The Catrachos will be out in full force. So yeah, I think he's going to be a fantastic signing.
It's the same question.
He's already a member of the locker room.
Yeah, it's true.
He's been there. It's like it's not like he's walking off a plane. They're like, "Oh, hi, Andy. It's good to meet you. Here's what Bob wants to do." Like, it's been since literally last year. He celebrated the supporter shield with this team. He knows what's up. That's the best part about this signing. They're going to MLSisBack, and it is a new signing. But like Bob Bradley played this honestly in the best way possible. He got like 5-6 months of evaluating him physically, evaluating him with his team, and then he got to pull the trigger and make the signing. Again, we go back to sort of saying, okay, what LAFC is doing, their long-term planning, sort of their succession, young players, older players, the mix. This is just, in my mind, another instance of getting it right, because then they also had 3-4 months of Blackman and Segura at center back.
When did Andy Najar
those guys know each other?
Do you guys remember what year that was?
2012, I think he left MLS.
His first season, he moved to Anderlecht in January of 2013.
2013? Yeah. Interesting point here. I believe John Thorrington played for DC United, and I would be interested to know if their sort of paths had crossed as well too, because that may also be a key to making this deal get done.
The issue with Andy Najar is the same issue that we talked about with Fabian Johnson. He has missed so much time due to injury over the past 5 years. It's like he's coming off an ACL tear. He had various muscle injuries, hamstring, thigh, knee. I think he's done his ACL twice now. If he can give them 2,000 minutes a year across all competitions, that would be a huge win. But I look at this roster and I still, even if they get Andy Najar, they're still really thin at right back. So I don't think LAFC are done. I don't think, given how aggressive they've been in the transfer market, I would expect to see something else happen for this team.
How thin are they?
At
Who
right
else
back?
is at right back?
Munir.
Munir.
Because they
Munir's
have Palacios and Harvey. One of those three between Palacios, Harvey, and Munir is their right back.
So I would argue that Mohamed El Munir is a sub-replacement level player at left back, which is in MLS, which is his actual position.
But it's
right?
also Major League Soccer. How many teams go 2 or 3 deep at right back?
But I'm arguing that they don't even really go too deep at right back. Like Tristan Blackman's a center back.
And LAFC's not any other team, right?
Yeah, and if Tristan Blackman's not a center back, then they're thin at center back. So I think that, like, I still think LAFC needs to do work after this one.
Yeah, I don't disagree. The thing is, again, to go back to it, they're not signing Andy Najar sight unseen. They've had him in their facility. Their medical folks have been looking at him. He's trained with them, clearly. They're not signing him blind. So we'll see how this works out, and we'll probably see pretty quick here as soon as these teams hit Orlando. Some other news for you. The Whitecaps are changing their CEO. Mark Pence is gone. Axel Schuster moves up into that. He now has a dual role. Another front office change for this team. Not a lot of stability in that sense. We'll see what it means. I know there's a lot of gnashing of teeth going on about it in Canada. Harry Shipp retired. So good luck at Northwestern Business School, Harry. Got a couple titles.
Go Cats.
Gave it up with a couple more potentially on the line. I mean, we looked at his salary. He's up over $200K, so it must have been a great opportunity for Harry, but good luck to him moving on.
Education is priceless, Weeby. Come on, man. You know that.
Boy, I paid a price for mine, I feel like. Some rumors out there for you.
You better be careful. Harry Shipp might be your boss in a couple years, man. You should be careful what you say right now.
Boy,
yeah.
Great decision, Harry. I've always trusted that you would make the right choice at the right time for the benefit of everybody in American soccer, in Canadian soccer, and whenever I work for you, I look forward to that opportunity. Javier Pastore, linked with the Galaxy. It's that time of year, which is basically any time of year. Also, Irving Lozano is on the outs with Napoli, so might as well bring him in with the Galaxy as well.
You guys, 2 years ago yesterday, I was in Moscow watching Chucky Lozano score against Germany. Just in case none of you knew.
Flex.
Yeah, things have changed. Hector Moreno is retweeting Austin FC, liking their tweets, and now going on interview shows in Texas. So if you're looking for a veteran center back who might play for that expansion team next year, Hector Moreno, Mexican International, is not a bad shout there. And then if you want to check out some landing spots for Fabian Johnson, Greg Seltzer at MLSsoccer.com has a potential list. By the way, Greg Seltzer, my first boss in soccer. He didn't pay me anything, but it was a good time at American Soccer Now. That was a long time ago. You know what else feels like a long time ago? Greatest team of all time. The bracket got delayed. Look, things happen in the world that were more important. We do not apologize for delaying this, but it will be back Monday, so look out for the poll. We'll vote on that one. Robin Fraser knows a thing or two about the greatest teams in MLS history. He was assistant coach on that 2017 TFC squad that we all think is probably the favorites to win this thing. He is on the line now. Robin, welcome to Extra Time.
Great. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here. Always a good chat with you too.
Man, I'm thinking back to days already. 3 seasons past in conference rooms, asking you questions you probably thought you would never get about the past. So let's start that way again. We're doing the greatest team of all time in MLS history. The bracket's gotten a little bit delayed, but we're going to get back to it on Thursday. And the final 4 teams are 2017 Toronto FC. You know them pretty well. 2014 Galaxy. That's the matchup on one side of the bracket. 2018 Atlanta United and 98 DC United. We've eliminated all the other teams down to those 4. Are those 4, is the greatest team in MLS history among those 4 in your mind, or is it outside? What's the best team in this league?
I'm just going to take a sideways step here. And the 98 Galaxy team is one of the best, but because we didn't win, no one talks about us. That team was unbelievable. Anyway, in terms of teams who have accomplished, the things that you think about great teams accomplishing, the 2017 TFC team was fantastic. It was a project that started, I think Greg took over in early 2014 or middle of 2014. And I got there in the beginning of 2015, and to watch the evolution of that team over that time period, and to watch us slowly get better and better, to watch us get better as coaches, to watch us get better as players, and throughout that 2017 year, really start to hone the way that we played. There was a stretch late in that year, toward the end of the year, where we were just seemingly on autopilot. We beat San Jose, I think, by 4 goals. I think we beat Portland by 4 goals. And it was not a matter of if we were going to win, it was how much we were going to win by. And really, just the way the players came together, the types of players, the characteristics of the players, and how they fit together, that the way that group was able to get through 2017 win in the MLS Cup was won in the most decisive of fashions. I thought we really, really played well on the day. Seattle didn't play well on the day. And as a result, it looked and felt like a team that was above the rest of the group. And as I look back at the years of this league, and there have been a lot of good teams and a lot of good champions, for me, that stands out as the best team in the history of the league.
When you think about this, because you mentioned your 98 Galaxy, 98 DC United, we had them knock off 2019 LAFC. When you think about comparing great teams from those two eras, basically as wide apart as you can get in Major League Soccer, do you think about them compared to the competition they were playing against, that you were playing against in 98? Or do you think the teams are comparable through the generations, through the eras?
It's interesting because the game has changed so much and it's more structured, and I think things are clearer all over the field. And the teams, Atlanta of recently, LAFC of last year, TFC of 2017, are teams that play with a great deal of structure, meaning as you watch them, it looks very free-flowing, but because of their structured setup and their set ideas in certain parts of the field, it's really, really difficult to deal with. But those teams, those three most recent teams that we just talked about, were really, really good in terms of their structure, their shape behind the ball. They were good in all aspects of the game, and it was very systematic. When you think about the teams in the late 90s, it was a lot of freewheeling. It was very good players who could put things together, and if your group is conscientious, then you have some good shape behind the ball. You have the ability to win it back. You have the ability to keep it, and then you have guys who could make good plays and score goals. So if you think about where the game is now, I like where the game has evolved. I feel like we are really purposeful in the way we play, and I think that carries over to being better, not just here, maybe being better in the world. But I still like the 98 Galaxy team. We were fun. We scored a lot of goals, and we were very freewheeling, but we had some really good players, and it was, in a lot of ways, a really, really fun season to be a part of. But we did fall short, so I can't talk about it too much because we didn't win in 98, though everything, by all rights, we should have. And I don't mean to say, someone's going to say, stop whining, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying that was a really fun team to be a part of.
Hey, man, that your memory's going all the way back. It's definitely not stuck in your craw in any way. The fact that you didn't get it done at the end, it was a great team. This has been so fun and difficult throughout. But let's talk normal times. Let's throw the air quotes. Let's talk normal times. I think a lot these days about, let's say, March 3rd and opening day, and the way I felt then and the way I feel now, and it feels like a lifetime, Robin, and I'm sure it feels the same from your part, and you're managing much more, let's say, than I am. What has changed in your role as just a person, but also as a head coach of the Colorado Rapids since, I'm going to say, March 12th, because that's the date that sticks out in my head of, okay, things are changing right now?
I'll just take you through the timeline, really. We were getting ready to play Vancouver on that Saturday, leave on the Friday. I believe it was Tuesday night, the NBA postponed their season. We came out, we had a training session on Wednesday, and we were all talking. We're like, if the NBA does it, this thing's up in the air now for sure. Come in Thursday morning, I'm getting messages from our GM, hold it, there's some announcements coming from the league, and all the players were here, and then next thing we know, the season's over. We go home, and we're kind of looking around, twiddling our thumbs, going, what just happened? So in the first week, I really kind of felt just out of sorts. And I spent a lot of time with my younger daughter, training, cooking, baking, doing all kinds of things that first week. And after a week, I felt like I need to figure out what we're doing in this time period. And so then coaches and I started putting together video sessions every week for different groups of our team. And then it became 6 weeks of kind of school for them, which I'm sure in a lot of ways they hated. There were some assignments. It started off as just me going over things, us going over things. And we thought, what better way to engage them than to actually engage them? And so they started having assignments. And so the Zoom chats became assignments for them to continue to learn and show what they're learning and what they know and what we need to work on through video and analysis. And it became literally 6 weeks of video analysis. And we felt like in that time we made strides in terms of our team ideas and things that we're trying to hammer home. And it felt really purposeful. That was the one thing. We didn't want to engage the players, but we wanted to make sure that it was purposeful. It wasn't just we wanted to, chat and catch up and, hey, how you guys doing? Let's stay connected that way. There was some of that as well, and they did a really good job of just staying in touch with each other. But for us, it was a really intense kind of, we can't play, but we can certainly continue to grow tactically. And we felt like we did. So then the Orlando thing starts to come up, and we start to think we might be able to play. There could be some individual training. And once all that started to unfold, then the goal was, how do we make the individual training purposeful? And I tell you, I almost feel bad how hard the individual trainings were. And they just came. And they worked their butts off. And nobody complained, and they were into it from minute one. And that's the thing I've loved about this team. Everyone's heard me say this, is that they're a team and they're unselfish. And when there's work to be done, they just put their heads down and do the work. So to get through that and then get to now team training last week, and now we have an actual target date in front of us. Their question was, what's it like to be the coach of the Rapids at this time? That was the timeline to get here. And then all of a sudden you feel like you were at nothing for a while, and then you started creeping forward, and now all of a sudden you're going 100 miles an hour straight up. So it's about trying to take all of what we've done in this time period and turn it into actual soccer, and how to compete, and how to use all this that we've done in order to win games. And the race is on. I feel like around the league, the race is on. Who can get their team closest to where they want to have them by the middle of July? I mean, if you can do well and get through your group, that would be great, but everyone wants to be firing on all cylinders, certainly want to get out of the group. And there is no that. I want to backtrack a second. I don't want to make it sound like anyone's thinking they're going to get out of our group. Our group is extremely difficult, and we need to focus on that. We need to get through the group. Certainly, we need to execute a lot of things really well in order to get out of the group. But certainly, the goal is for everyone is to win this thing.
I'm curious because
That's a long answer, wasn't it?
It eliminated about 4 questions that we don't need to ask now. So cool. We appreciate you doing it all in one.
All right.
It's been a while for you, right? Like, this is the first getting back in the groove for the Orlando tournament. So you had a lot to say.
That's right.
But every time I talk to you about soccer, when you were at TFC, New York, whatever, you do always talk systems, styles, tactics. It means a lot to you. And I know methodology is a big part of that. Of when you took over the Rapids, where were you last July? Where were you going to be this March? Where are you going to be next September? And so on and so forth. I'm curious where you're watching all that video. You're talking about how your ideas progress, but they're not doing it on the field. Are you restarting when you get to Orlando as if it's the beginning of this MLS season? Are you changing up that plan of where the team needs to be at in different facets of the game? How do you process this in your larger plan?
I think this entire experience right now is an anomaly. So if I came in, or did come in last August, and if there's a thought as to where I was going to be this August, next August, I think this is a year of change and a year of uncertainty, a year of adaptability. So now it's about trying to get as ready as we can for the beginning of July, and then continue to progress through that, hopefully, and have the ability to win something at the end of August. Very different than you look at a long-term plan of trying to build a team. This is the tournament, and it's exciting and it's different. So I feel like now the plan is, can we be as ready as we can for the first game? And then can we do what we need to do to get through those games while maybe getting better and sharper? And then obviously, if you're fortunate enough to get through the group stages, then it's, how do you win this game? And how do you win the next game? And how do you win the next game? So in terms of building style of play, I think there's an overall methodology that that doesn't change. But certainly we will be looking at trying to accelerate, given the time that we've had off, trying to accelerate certain parts of the game that we think are going to help us win games. And really between now and the end of August, it's very much about winning games as opposed to throughout a season. It's winning games, it's building, it's progressing, it's getting better and better and better, so that by the end, you're hopefully playing at your best and you have something to play for. Right now, you have to be decent enough in 3 games to give yourself a chance to play for something at the end. So I think everything is accelerated just the way tournaments are.
How rusty are teams going to be, Robin, and physically, how far behind are guys? Because we hear the same thing all the time. It's a cliche, but I think it's true. Game speed is different than, individual training speed, let's say. So
Absolutely.
Rust as far as technically, and then rust physically. I mean, what is the product we're going to see?
Well, as I watch, who did I watch? Watched a little bit of a couple of English games yesterday. I've watched a couple of German games in the last couple of weeks. And you see portions of rust for sure. And while I think technically everyone will be fine, as people start to get tired, concentration will fade a little sooner than what you would normally see. Then you'll see some technical breakdowns. But I think the decision-making process is one where that's going to take some time. And decision-making with the ball, decision-making without the ball. I'm thinking of a German game I saw this weekend where the left center back was just out of position in a couple of situations and gave up a goal on one. Should have given up a goal on another. I think he gave up a PK. And it's just an example of the hardest things to get back when you get right down to it is the ability to really, really concentrate and to concentrate and be mistake-free. I think that is the hardest thing to do. You'll see a lot of phenomenal plays. You're going to see great execution in certain areas, and you're going to see some really boneheaded plays. And I say boneheaded kind of tongue-in-cheek because that's how you feel. God knows I've made a million of them, boneheaded mistakes. But until you get to a certain level of fitness and concentration, these things are going to happen. So hopefully we can be the beneficiary of some of these moves and not really suffering too many of them.
One of the big talking points, and to that is this setup better for young players with young legs or veterans who know how to manage their body, know how to manage the moment, maybe concentrate in a time when you're tired? You have a team that uniquely has both extremes of some of the youngest starters in MLS with guys like Kai and Jack Price who know the game very well. What do you think this tournament sets up for, and how do you discuss it with the different groups?
It sounds like a bit of a cop-out answer to say that it's impossible to say who definitely sets up better for given age and experience and that sort of thing. I would say I would always err toward any difficult situation is going to involve the best thinkers. And that would probably push you toward experience. I think that you have to have, but I think we're set up pretty well for that. We have some experienced players who will be able to concentrate through some of this. They'll also help guide some of the youthful energy that we have. And I think the young players will grow throughout this process, and they'll become smarter, and they'll come to recognize things you can do and can't do when it's 98 degrees and 97% humidity and you're 4 weeks into training, and understand the risk versus reward and that sort of thing. That's where I think the experienced players are going to come in handy, but I think the experienced players need the young legs to also be able to execute some of the things they want to execute. So I think really it's set up. That's why I said it sounds like a cop-out answer, but I think it's very much about how your team manages the conditions together, and the conditions being the heat, the humidity, the lack of preparation, the time off, the personal issues, COVID, Black Lives Matters, all the things that are going on in the world right now. It's how you can cope with that, and once you step onto the field, be able to concentrate on the task at hand.
All right, Robin, we've we've officially decided on this show that you guys are dark horses, so you're not going under our radar. And I've written that as well, so I've got my words in posterity. One of the reasons being set pieces. You have so many attacking options, but you're also deadly in dead ball situations. And Price to Kai has become an iconic MLS duo. What is the deal here? Why are you so good as a team on this? Is it individuals? Is it tactics? Is it training? Is it reps? What is it?
So tactics, training, reps. A lot of that comes down to Chris Sharp, our goalkeeper coach, who is our set piece guru. Studies them, analyzes them, loves it, absolutely loves it. And it's a big part of what he does. Spends a lot of time preparing, spends a lot of time looking at opponents, and comes up with great attacking schemes, great defending schemes as well, and takes a great deal of pride in them. So from the coach's standpoint, that's the input. Sharpie's been phenomenal. Individually, the players are, I guess we'll start with Jack. Jack's service is phenomenal. Some guys just have a way. They have a way of playing balls that are friendly, consistent, right weight, right spin. And some guys have that ability. And Jack definitely does. He serves great balls. And if you are a runner in the box, and I was terrible in the air, so I often made a mess of these. But guys who are good, if there's consistent service, their runs are really committed, because every time we get a set piece, our team thinks we're going to score. And as a result, the runs are really committed. And then you have guys who can really execute. And you have a lot of guys who are really good headers. And obviously Kai is very good. Drew Moore is excellent. And over the years as a defender, what he's been able to do is, as a 6-foot-tall defender, what he's been able to do is pretty amazing. And then there's just so many others. Danny Wilson, Laos Abubakar. And it just works. And I think once you feel like something is part of your identity, then you take even more pride in it. So this is a group, they really take pride in it, and they train really hard. Adam, I've been on many teams where when it's time to do set pieces, it's like pulling teeth. And it's really hard to get guys to stay focused long enough to get through it. And with this group, they seem to relish it, because they really feel like every dead ball situation provides an opportunity for them.
Can I ask you about in Kansas City? I mean, it's a decade ago now, and it only feels like I look at Kai and I'm like, I can't believe the number next to your name, how old you are. Like physically, I feel like he's only gotten better, stronger, more explosive. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy what this guy has been able to do longevity-wise, and you see him climbing up the goal-scoring charts as well. I mean, his career is such a special thing to me, from a guy who was kind of scuffling at the beginning to doing what he's done until now. What's he mean to this squad?
He's a freak of nature, to be quite honest. I played till I was 38, so I like to think that or almost 39. I like to feel like I was, this anomaly and something different than what you see normally. And then I run into a guy like this, who is bigger, stronger, I won't say faster than I was, but he's a physical specimen. And what he's been able to do over a long period of time, and to continue to perform physically as well as he has over the years is pretty special. It's really quite special.
I wanted to ask you, before, we know you don't have that much time and we are taking up your day, which I appreciate. Before we step away from soccer now, part of the effect of going to this tournament for you, for your team, is this unprecedented time of leaving your families, of leaving your home, traveling through global pandemic, being in this space. You've mentioned, mental health professionals and needing to support players through this. Do you guys have a plan of how to help players deal with this scenario and try and perform at some sort of peak level with everything else going on?
Yeah, just in terms of the mental side of it, there is someone who works with us who is an outlet for the players. And, so from that perspective, that's there, and that's a resource available to the players. Other than that, I feel like again, one of the things about this team is that we have a bunch of guys that get on with it. And if anyone isn't really getting on with it, the rest of the group just goes, get on with it. So there is, I don't want to make it sound like we're not empathetic or sympathetic to all the challenges of the tournament. That's not the case at all. But I think once, I know we've talked about it, that once the tournament was decided and we're going and we're going to do it, then let's do everything we can to win it, period. And I'm sure guys will have a hard time. I'm sure everyone will have a hard time at some point being there. I think preseason is a normal thing that time of year. You just know it's going to be that way. And it's a little bit different. And you're going into a tournament where it's different than going into preseason games. You're going into something you try to win. There's different pressures and different time of year. It just feels different than preseason. So I know that the guys are going to have a difficult time from time to time. But again, one of the things I like about this team is that they do care about each other. And it's not just a bunch of guys getting paid to play soccer, but they do care about each other and they can lean on each other, which is a nice thing to see.
We've heard that it's going to be floors per team, which kind of makes it feel like a dorm situation or like the real world. And I was thinking about your role. Are you like an RA here? Do you have to be like, hey, bed checks, guys, keep it down, clean the bathroom? Like, what's your role inside this hotel when you're not on the training field or on the pitch? You going to stay away? You going to mingle? How are you going to do it?
Stay out of their way and hang with my boys from TFC probably.
Robin, are we going to get an epic 5v5 coaching staffs of MLS tournament at some point?
Ooh, that's an interesting thought. That's a really
I would pay for that.
I heard
that's
ESPN Plus is looking for content. So
wow, that's a really interesting thought. We'll have to float that once we get down there. I'm sure it'll depend on moods. Guys who are winning will want to play. Guys who are losing will want nothing to do with anyone else.
I'll take soccer tennis too, in case we want to lessen the load on legs as well.
Right.
Let's turn though. Let's turn though to you mentioned the Black Lives Matter movement. You've been really eloquent and outspoken on some of these things publicly, and I'm just curious whether it's being talked about within your team, because we've seen some of the players out at protests and being outspoken. I mean, this is a sort of moment that transcends everything. Has it leaked into the locker room and the discussions that are being had? Does it feel like it's a part of what you're doing right now?
To be honest, when you talk about leaks into the locker rooms, we're in 5 different locker rooms right now.
That's fair.
I don't even see the players until we get out onto the field. And once we get on the field, then it's about soccer. So I'm not sure really what's being spoken. It's different. If we were able to be together, I think the answer to that question would be different. And I do think that, again, awareness is so high. Everyone is aware of it. Everyone, I'm sure they voice opinions to each other. We talk about it amongst ourselves, those of us who can actually be together. So the coaches, we do talk about it. I'm sure the players do as well. The problem is the problem. The issue is when we get together, our time together is so limited. We don't have a lot of time to talk about it. But I do know that we have some very conscientious players, guys who are really aware of it and guys who are very much in support of it and looking forward to seeing change.
You were born in Jamaica, came to the U.S. at a young age, and then lived in Toronto for a while as a coach most recently. So you've seen the relationship for Black people in different countries in different settings. What have you seen in the U.S.? You talked about it a little bit in your article of how it's different here. And what have you seen that, you lock in and say it works better in one place, maybe, and you'd rather see that practice moved around?
I mean, as I said in that article, growing up in Jamaica, I just didn't notice racial prejudice. I was really young. Obviously, the majority of the population in Jamaica is Black, but there are a lot of white and mixed race, Chinese, Middle Eastern descent, that sort of thing. There's a lot of that there. And I left when I was 11. So it was hard for me to really put my finger on it because I had friends of all different colors and never even thought twice about it. What I've come to realize is, as I said, there was more class prejudice in Jamaica than there is actual racial prejudice. But I was shocked. My first day in the U.S., I was shocked. I'd visited so many times. I loved the U.S. We didn't have color TV in Jamaica then. I loved color TV. I loved all the snacks. I loved the sugary cereals. There are all these things I loved about the U.S. And I was actually pretty excited to move here. And on my first day of 6th grade, it was really kind of eye-opening to see this fight at the end of the day between the blacks and the whites in the school. I'm 11 years old. I'm like, what is going on in this country? And then, it's been just this constant awareness of the tension between blacks and whites in this country, and unwritten, unspoken, but there's always something there. So, and you always notice kind of how races relate to each other and how easily or not easily they seem to coincide and congregate. And it's always been something I've noticed, which is what made me really noticed in Toronto. I would get on the subway and just see people of different races come and go, laughing, smiling, having a good time. And it always, every day without fail, I would see just so many races moving together so easily. And it feels less tense to me there, though, as we can see now, Black Lives Matters is a worldwide movement. It happens everywhere. But I definitely felt in Toronto that it seemed to be less tense. I shouldn't say definitely. It seemed to me to be less tense, and that races were able to coexist a little more easily there. And I don't know exactly what the reason is. I don't know why it is, but it just felt that way.
Before we let you go here, one of the quotes that you had that I thought was really powerful was, and I'll just quote it for the people at home that didn't read the article, and you should. You absolutely should go read this. Quote, "You're very aware of being a black person in the U.S. because I think without a doubt, there's always a feeling that it's almost like you're an outsider at times." I read that quote from you, and I think about the number of black head coaches in our league now. It's you and Thierry, I believe, and then over time, the numbers I don't think go past 10. I think it might just be 6 with Vieira, Winter, Hullett, and Hamlet. If I replaced in that quote American soccer with the U.S., do you feel like black players, black coaches, black administrators, does it feel like you're outsiders, or I guess what I'm asking, is there space to make up here, and how we might make up that space for more equity for black players who want to be coaches or administrators or executives or whatever it might be?
I just think what it is that people in decision-making positions just need to be more open-minded. I think there's an implicit bias just by the fact that there are far more white players than there are black players. Therefore, there might be more white players at the forefront of your mind. Or certainly in the case of pro sports, you see coaches get recycled all the time. And I think that in decision-making positions, we have to continue to look to try to find the best candidate for whatever the position is, and not just go with the familiar name or the safe name. But I think actively try to find the best, and the best might look slightly different than maybe what you thought it would, just on the surface of it. I think that's, if you're talking about immediate change within our league, I just think that people can be more open-minded and perhaps look a little bit deeper, scratch the surface a bit and see what's under there, because you might just find a diamond in the rough. You might be the one who takes a chance on someone and it turns out to be great. And, I suppose ultimately we'd like it to be where you don't even think about color, right? You just think about who this person is, or what this coach's abilities, what this executive's abilities are, and you don't even think about color. And I think to say that we don't would be naive to say, oh no, I don't see color. I think we all see color, but it would be really ideal if we didn't, and if we just saw people. And I think that's where we have to get to. And part of getting there, I think, is just continuing to be really open-minded and not just go with the quote-unquote safe choice, but just continue to look and scratch and see. And you might even see someone who today isn't as ready as maybe someone else, but you could see real potential in them, and you nurture them. So I just think that's where we are, that we just really need to open our minds and be willing to try and see full people for their full potential.
I think it's well said. We're opening our minds to the Rapids, Robin. MLS is back. Coming July 8th. Dark horse, man. We're rooting for you, all right? Thank you so much for your time today. Enjoy training. Enjoy being back to the quote-unquote normal that you have right now, and we're looking forward to seeing what you guys do come Orlando, okay?
Great. Thanks, you guys. I really appreciate it. We'll see you then.
Big thanks to Robin for joining us. We always enjoy chatting with him. The Rapids, we've been hyping him up, so I hope we're not disappointed here, but I'm excited to see him play. I'm excited to see whatever happens with CONCACAF and the World Cup qualifying format because it continues to change. Rumblings out there now that it's going to be maybe an octagonal instead of hexagonal. So 8 teams, and right now that would push Canada and Curacao in, which I'm absolutely here for. The assumption, I guess, would be that the top 3 then would advance, then the 4th would face off against the rest of the teams playing their own tournament. It's all up in the air. We went from 3 groups of 4 in the top 12, now to 8. I mean, compare the two. Doyle, do you like this better than the previous potential solution? I mean, it kind of feels right now that it's like the PR float, where it's like, maybe we might do this. What do you think? Let's gauge the reaction. What's the temperature?
Yeah.
Where's your temperature on this?
I mean, it feels like a trial balloon. I'm not sure how this is fair to the 9th place team in the region, or like any more fair. Like it doesn't seem to all add up, does it? But at the same time, whatever, the teams that are out there who want to make the tournament, you got to go out and win the games, whatever the format is. So in the end, just play the damn games. I'm fine with it.
So to Doyle's point, Curacao is currently 80th in the rankings. Panama is 81 and Haiti is 86. So it's not like there's a 35 place gap between 8 and 9. These are all teams that are right on top of each other, that have all played each other recently, beaten each other. I think I agree with Doyle, but at some point you got to find teams to go to the World Cup. We don't know when that's going to happen. That's going to be a huge part of this, is like, where can you travel? How much can people travel? All of that's going to probably going to be the leading component of this. But yeah, it'll be
it's just
I'll get a chance.
How can we actually do it? And that's why they're trial balloons, because nobody knows how they're actually going to be able to do it, when the dates would be, when the travel would be possible, if every team can actually make their way there. Do you have a centralized spot for the tournament? I mean, that's why you have these trial balloons, because literally nobody knows. And somebody's going to be disappointed. We're used to it being Canada, but somebody will be.
So obviously you need to get something done, and there's so much more going on in the world than soccer, but it would destroy my heart if there was a centralized location for World Cup qualifying. Because the value of CONCACAF is the unique nature of the region. I think it's probably, maybe along with Africa, the most unique, in that you've got completely different settings and languages and places and all these things. And if you stuck all that in Houston, Texas, no offense, Galen, and just played all the games in 1 or 2 stadiums, that would really hurt.
I don't know why you have to bring Houston into this, man.
Because let's be real, it's CONCACAF. It's either LA, Houston, or Dallas. Maybe.
Yeah, Houston would be a great place for that.
I say, I don't know, Miami, man.
Yeah, Miami would be good.
But you don't have a soccer-specific stadium.
Southeast.
Yeah, you do.
Well, I guess now you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, Fort Lauderdale. Respect it. Respect the fort.
Fort Lottie Dottie. We'll see what happens. I mean, I would like to see Panama and Haiti get the opportunity. I would like to see teams play in their home stadiums and those fans have that chance. I mean, it's still like my biggest soccer bucket list is to go to every single hex venue in a hex, if that ever exists ever again, or whatever the next format is. That is what I want to do before I die, and I hope to get there. I hope to get there. All right, let's get to the mailbag on that positive note. The Premier League is back, and we're hearing that the Premier League could play some quote-unquote walk-on music for substitutes coming on the pitch. It feels like this is a space that Major League Soccer would normally lead the way, let's say, and sort of a like.
Weeby, are you reading email, or are you reading your own rundown here?
This is my own rundown.
Okay, you do know that for about 2 straight years, you asked almost every interviewee what would be their walkout soccer song. Do you not remember that yourself?
No, man.
I was shocked that wasn't the lead to this. You literally asked, like, yo, man, I play high school baseball. I don't know if you know about baseball, but we have walkout songs.
We didn't even get walkout songs.
You were obsessed with the soccer player walkout song question. And now it's a reality, and you don't even remember?
You manifested this, man.
Yeah.
For years and years, I guess I just like planted the seeds and then I forgot about it and I came back and all of a sudden the garden's growing and the Premier League is giving validity to my previous crackpot thoughts.
If you
what song would David Luiz have walked out to yesterday?
Oh,
probably Ozzy Osbourne.
Crazy Train?
Yeah.
Would you, Kalen, you've made some impacts off the bench. Would you like this? Would you like standing up, getting loose, hearing your song come over? Or would you be like, what is this? Why is this happening?
I don't know. I don't think so. I wouldn't like this, but I think it should only be reserved for like a select few. So you have to like qualify as far as like Alan Gordon deserves an entry song, and he has qualified. It's kind of like MLS free agency. You have to work for this thing. So I think if you put some time in the game, you have X amount of substitute appearances, I probably would have qualified too. But I may have passed on the opportunity. I'm not sure.
No,
but I would like to see.
You're not allowed to pass on ETR. We're putting you on the spot.
Okay.
What's your substitute on music?
Wow, man, this was not on the rundown.
I can tell you mine would be Personal Jesus by Depeche Mode. I mean, that's just obvious, but anyway.
Okay. Yeah. Can I get it to you by the end of the episode? I just gotta. There's nothing popping to mind right now.
Yeah,
I don't listen to music
back
anymore.
Wow.
My life is void of music. I just listen to ETR podcasts.
No, I don't believe that at all. Well, how about this? This will take some time. So get in your phone, get in Spotify, whatever you got to do right now. I've been saving this one. What 5 worst DPs? This is from Gabaldon Art. What 5 worst DPs would you want to see a documentary on about their time in MLS? Why they failed? Why it blew up in their faces? Like a 30 for 30 for like Landin, for instance. So you can't do Luis Landin on this one. But I would nominate who?
Denelson.
Daniel. That's a good one.
Number 1.
What do you imagine that might be?
At one point he was the highest transfer. Like his whole career would be interesting, taking out the MLS part. So yeah.
I'm gonna go Rafa Marquez. Rafa Marquez, New York Red Bulls. I mean, you got a lot of drama there. You got him throwing the ball at Landon. So then you have like if we're doing the documentary, you've got Landon sitting there. You show him like Michael Jordan style on the iPad, and Landon's just like, I mean, what was this? Why would he do this? This is ridiculous. I remember 10 years earlier. Whatever. So I think he's a good shout out there. There's some real depth to that one, and maybe you continue on with his legal troubles as well. I don't know if that like connects, but I think there's a lot of material with my guy Rafa Marquez. I'm thinking anybody on the Chicago Fire. You just do the whole Chicago Fire, like from after Cuauhtémoc, that whole thing. Like Nery Castillo, we've already basically done it on this show with Kalen.
My guy,
so we've already got. Yeah, Ananga is a good one. Federico Pupo is certainly a good one.
What about Chris Boyd? I love a good Chris Boyd moment. Portland Timbers coming on the scene hot with a slow, tall Scottish striker who did 0 and then got out.
Could we combine the Chris Boyd one with like Vancouver Whitecaps? Could we throw in like Barry Robson and Kenny Miller and just do it all in the same one? Just do like
the Scots of the Pacific Northwest.
Yes, the Scots of the Pacific Northwest.
Who was it? Abel Xavier in the Galaxy?
Oh, I don't think he was a DP, but we'll make the exception for this.
If you're going to do a Galaxy one, I would argue Gerrard is the one. I think there's an argument to be made that Steven Gerrard is the single worst DP signing in MLS history. Not that he was the worst player. Obviously, he was an excellent player, but he was supposed to be the one who transitioned the Galaxy into the TAM era, the centerpiece of the team for multiple years, the heart of the team. And when he got here, he refused to move. And he was shocked about things like plane rides and heat and altitude and turf.
Those are shocking. Those can be shocking.
So, but like, how are you paying a guy $7 million a year and he's not prepared for it? And if you look, and this has kind of been covered over the last couple of years by Zlatan, but if you look at the Galaxy in the TAM era, I mean, arguably no team has transitioned worse than the LA Galaxy. The LA Galaxy 5 years ago were the biggest, best team in MLS. They were coming off a dynasty. Yes, Landon had retired, but they still had Robbie Keane. They were splashing out on Gio Dos Santos, who actually had a best 11 year. And they were bringing in Steven Gerrard to tie it all together and be the heart in central midfield. And they have basically not been a playoff team since then. I think that Gerrard signing led to the downfall of what had been the best and most successful team in MLS history to that point. And I frankly don't think the Galaxy have ever recovered for that. And then you tie it into LAFC coming in 2018 and not only creating this sort of movement within the city in terms of their fan base, but getting their DP signings so right and completely flipping which is the dominant team in that market. And so Gio Dos Santos definitely has some of that, but to me, it was the decision to sign Steven Gerrard and to put it all on his shoulders, and his decision to go, meh, and that was that.
Boy.
Things one.
By the way,
be my text.
Olufemi Martins
goes all the way around the world of Doyle says this headline, Reddit page in England, Liverpool legend is worst signing ever. Back to Liverpool fans in the U.S. who are like, your boy Matt Doyle doesn't respect the god Steven Gerrard. So all right,
the pressure of MLS was too much for him.
For sure. I also think
honestly,
we've talked about this, I think, over the last few years, or who knows what world we live in and what time and space is. But I think a lot of what Doyle's saying also goes on Bruce Arena of short-term signings to win now. The league changed, depth became different, the style of play became different, and the Galaxy have been, and Gerrard was a part of that, a team that signed old guys, and they signed them for short-term gain, and it all came crashing down at a time when you had teams go out and sign 25 and 26-year-old DPs that they could then build around with consistency for 4 or 5 years. We didn't mention Jermaine Defoe. We have to. Jermaine Defoe has to be the headline.
But Jermaine Defoe at least led to Josie, right? And
yeah,
Josie
he performed, and then he was the make-weight to
They
get
were going to
Josie.
rebuild a franchise on a guy's shoulders, whose then mom was like, he's out. Like 12 months later, and they got a bus, double-decker bus, and it was a whole thing.
But at least they got the bus.
But to me, it's the idea that the Galaxy were the dominant team in the league, and it's kind of been like underreported, or it hasn't, in a weird way, it hasn't become a part of the discussion that since TAM, they have been a disaster. Like in this modern era, MLS 3.0, whatever we want to call it, the LA Galaxy are a non-factor. And if you had ever told any MLS fan that 5 years ago, they would have called you crazy. They would have called you absolutely nuts. And I do think it comes back to that moment in middle 2015 where they decided to sign Gerrard instead of going in a different direction and signing a younger player who could transition them into this era of the league.
For sure, but sorry, 1 sec. He was 35 when they signed him. So the decision to sign him by that staff and front office was what has taken the Galaxy in that direction. And it's really just a symbol of how they operated. More to the point of Steven Gerrard was a bust because he couldn't do what was expected.
No, for sure. But that's part of the documentary, right? It's looking at the process and the decision-making in signing him, and then how he failed on the field and apparently in the locker room and left.
But I felt like it's a little too, like, almost strangely focused on Steven Gerrard. Like I don't blame Steven Gerrard for, like, how long was he even at the Galaxy? I think he was there like a year. What?
Year and a half.
Okay. I mean, yeah, there were other mistakes. Like they went and tried to go with the entire like FC Dallas homegrown movement for a season, and that didn't work. And there were multiple coaching changes and shifts within the organization
because they invested nothing in the academy and USL team, and then we're like, you guys start now. And it was like, oh, because FC Dallas been working on this for 12 years.
Yeah, I thought Steven Gerrard was going to be better. I thought he was going to be better. I went over and saw one of his last games against Manchester United at Anfield, and it was spectacular. He came on at halftime. He sprayed a ball like across the pitch. He played a 1-2 over a guy's head with somebody, and then he got a red card, just smashed this guy. and walked off. And I was like, wow, I got my money's worth. That was amazing. I was like, this guy's going to be incredible. Yeah, it didn't quite work out the way I think anybody would have planned it. But
we'll end here with the nomination.
My point is that
my God,
you said, Kalen, that it's strangely focused on Gerrard, but like Gerrard was brought in like at a price point and with like a hype level where he was there to paper over all of the other failings that we've talked about. And to Zlatan's almost eternal credit over the last 2 years, he basically did. Zlatan was basically able to take a team that was a wooden spoon team in 2017, get them to the brink of the playoffs in 2018, and then get them a cup of coffee in the playoffs in 2019. Like, Gerrard didn't even come close to doing that.
Would you say there's a parallel maybe with Pirlo?
Yeah. Yep.
Or like
even though Pirlo was actually worse on the field.
Yeah. He moved less for sure.
I'll end here with a nomination for Innocent and Megara because I want to see the Azerbaijani Premier League to MLS move and DP slot and the negotiations especially to get that deal done. We end with this email right here from Nick in Columbus, Georgia. He says he wants to share how much he's grown to love the show, especially during the stay-at-home orders and not having soccer or anything else really going on. He came into the league. He's a new convert, 2017 with Atlanta United. Hated soccer before that, but his first game made him fall in love with the team, and he says extra time has helped him learn about the league and appreciate the game even more. He listens to old shows in his free time, so thanks for the downloads. Nick in Columbus, if anybody else wants to go do that too, we're cool with that. That's all good. But he says time to advocate 2018 Atlanta for the win in the greatest team of all time bracket. He says he fully believes this team is the greatest, open to learning about why he might be wrong. Even though they blew the shield, the comeback to win the championship combined with the beautiful, high-scoring soccer from regular season helped Atlanta in any head-to-head matchup. We shall see. We'll be back at this on Monday. So look out for the poll because, of course, you guys get one vote and we'll decide the rest. Big thanks to Robin Fraser for joining us. I still feel bad for Steven Gerrard somehow. Before I was like, oh yeah, this guy's a villain. And now I'm like, dang, Steven Gerrard just got absolutely mopped.
I think I was not expecting that.
I think the conversation around Steven Gerrard was fitting in that I'd say Doyle is our Steven Gerrard. Slopes around, big name though, brings people to the games. Kalen's probably our star striker. But the true guy who does the work in midfield, the Servando Carrasco of this group, Anders Aarhus, will be traveling down to Orlando, and we will be missing him. We are wishing him the best of luck. And this show, when it craters in the next 2 to 4 days, is because we invested more in Doyle and let the guys who actually work hard.
He's our Harry ship. Yeah.
So, Weeby, you're going to be the Kurt Analfo of this ship. You're going to be the
Oh boy! So,
sailing this thing into the ground.
Couple years from now, though, I'll be in New England, so it's all good. All right, that's it from us. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe. Wear your masks.